All right, guys, so this is the excerpt from the sermon that Jonathan Edwards wrote. It was called Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. I would like you to please open up your notebook and write the words sinners in the hands of an angry God in your notes for Puritan literature. As I'm reading, I would like you to write down words that make you feel fear. Write down those words or those sentences in your notebook as I read this to you aloud. You may pause the video at any time if you need to write, and obviously click play to continue. Their foot shall slide in due time. So that this it is natural men are held in the hand of God over the pit of hell. They have deserved the fiery pit, and are already sentenced to it. And God is dreadfully provoked. His anger is as great toward them as those that are actually suffering in the execution of the fierceness of this wrath in hell. And they have done nothing in the least to appease or abate that anger, neither which is God in the least bound by any promise to hold them up one moment. The devil is waiting for them. Hell is gaping for them. The flames gather and flash about them, and would fain lay hold on them and swallow them up. The fire pent up in their own hearts is struggling to break out, and they have no interest in any mediator. There are no means within reach that can be any security to them. In short, they have no refuge, nothing to take hold of. All that preserves them every moment is the mere arbitrary will and uncoveted, unobliged forbearance of an incensed God. This use of this awful subject may be for awakening uncoveted persons in this congregation. This that you have heard is the case of every one of you that are out of Christ. That world of misery, the lake of burning brimstone, is extended abroad under you. There is the dreadful pit of glowing flames of the wrath of God. There is hell's wide gaping mouth open, and you have nothing to stand upon, nor anything to take hold of. There is nothing between you and hell but the air. It is only the power and mere pleasure of God that holds you up. You are probably not sensible of this. You find you are kept out of hell, but do not see the hand of God in it. But look at other things, as the good state of your bodily constitution, your care of your own life, and the means you use your own preservation. But indeed these things are nothing. If God should withdraw his hand, they would avail no more to keep you from falling than the thin air to uphold a person that is suspended in it. Your wickedness makes you as it were heavy as lead, and tend downward with great weight and pressure toward hell. And if God should let you go, you would immediately sink and swiftly descend and plunge into the bottomless gulf, and your healthy constitution, and your own care and prejudice, and best contrivance, and all your righteousness would have no more influence to uphold you and keep you out of hell that than a spider's web would have stopped a falling rock. The wrath of God is like giant waters that are dammed for the present. They increase more and more, and they rise higher and higher till an outlet is given. And the longer the stream is stopped, the more rapid and mighty its course. And when once it is loose, it is true that judgment against your evil works has not been executed hitherto, and the floods of God's vengeance have been withheld. But your guilt in the meantime is constantly increasing, and every day you are treasuring up more wrath. The waters are constantly rising and waxing more and more mighty, and there is nothing but mere pleasure of God that holds the waters back, that are unwilling to be stopped, and press hard and go forward. If God should only withdraw his hand from the floodgate, it would immediately fly open, and the fiery floods of fierce and wrath of God would rush forth with invincible fury, and would come upon you with its omnipotent power. And if your strength were 10,000 times greater than it is, yet 10,000 greater than the strength of the stoutest, sturdiest devil in hell, it would be nothing to withstand or endure it. The bow of God's wrath is bent, the arrow made ready on the string, and just as bends the arrow at your heart and strains the bow, and it is nothing but the mere pleasure of God, and that of an angry God, without any promise or obligation at all, that keeps the arrow one moment from being made drunk with your blood. Thus all that you have never passed under a great change of heart by the mighty power of Spirit and God among your souls. All that you were never born again, and new creatures rising from the dead in sin to a state of new, and before altogether unexperienced in light and life, are in the hands of an angry God. However, you may have reformed your life in many things, and may have had religious affections, and may keep from a form of religion in your families and closets in the house of God. It is nothing but his mere pleasure that keeps you from being this moment swallowed up in everlasting destruction. However, unconvinced, you may now be the truth of what you hear, and by you will be fully convinced of it. Those that are gone from being like the circumstance with you see that it was so with them, for destruction suddenly came upon most of them, when they expect nothing of it. And while they were saying peace and safety, now see that those things which they depended for peace and safety were nothing but thin air and empty shadows. The God that holds you over the pit of hell, much as like one holds a spider, or some loathsome insect over fire, abhors you and is dreadfully provoked. His wrath towards you burn like fire. He looks upon you worthy of nothing else, but cast into the fire. He is purer of eyes than to bear you in sight. You are 10,000 times more abominable in his eyes than the most hateful, venomous serpent is in ours. You have offended him infinitely more than a stubborn rebel did in his prince, and yet nothing in his hands holds you from falling in the fire every moment. It is to be ascribed to nothing else that you did not go to hell last night, that you was suffered to wake again in this world after you close your eyes to sleep, and there's nothing reason to be given why you haven't dropped into hell since you arose this morning, but that God's hands held you up. There is no other reason to be given why you have not gone to hell, since you have sat in the house of God, provoking his pure eyes by your sinful, wicked manner of attending his solemn worship. Yeah, there is nothing else to be given as a reason why you do not, this very moment, drop into hell. O sinner, consider the fearful danger that you are in. It is a great furnace of wrath and wide and bottomless pit, full of fire wrath, that you are held over in the hand of God, whose wrath is provoked and incensed as much against you. You may hang by a slender thread with the flames of divine flashing about it, and every moment singe it and burn it in asunder, and you have no interest in mediator, and nothing to lay hold of yourself, nothing to keep off of the flames. Nothing of your own, nothing you have ever done, nothing you can do to induce God to spare you one moment. And that's only part of it. He goes on saying this for about 50 minutes, so hopefully you enjoyed listening to me butcher that for a while. But he talks like this to his congregation for an hour every single day. Now you've heard some of the excerpt from John Edwards' Puritan leader, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God.